she got the ball to me, and all I remember was focusing on the ball, listening for the referee's whistle, looked at her, whatever, and just thinking, take your time, because I think one of the best advice I got given about a penalty is don't rush it.
Well, it's livening up here. They like that. A bit of needle out on court. There's nothing wrong with that.
Evening, everyone. Welcome to the Touch Tennis Show. Tonight, I've got someone very special with me. Not only has she played at the World Cup, a finalist, she won the Euros, Player of the Year, won the FA Cup, she's won the Women's Super League, she scored 21 goals in one season and is now the captain of Spurs. Ladies and gentlemen, Beth England.
Thanks for having me.
We were going to talk a little bit about nutrition, but I want to talk to you a little bit about your younger days, because I wasn't one of your early coaches. You played for the boys' team at school. And
yeah, it wasn't at school, but it was a boys' team that my friend at the time, when I played at football at my grandma's house on the street, he invited me and my twin sisters to go and play for his boys' football team, so it was separate to the school. But we were the only girls that played there because there was no girls' teams in the area at the time. And
it was about, what, 3 or 4 years after that? Was it Sheffield Wednesday that asked you to play for that? Or what happened? You were there for 3 years before you went to a women's team or a girls' team?
United. Sheffield United. You've got the wrong side of Sheffield, unfortunately.
Is there really that much difference?
Spell. There's a huge difference, yeah. Blake through and through. But I played for a team called Junior Tykes, which was really sweet because my niece recently just joined her first football club, which was the same football club that I first started in, and she has the same coach that coached me when I first started playing as well. So 20 years later, Chris, the guy, is still managing the same team, which is, for me, a really cute moment for my niece, trying to follow in my footsteps. But yeah.
But also that bodes well for England, because we've got another person with a surname England who in 20 years might be scoring goals at the World Cup.
She's not in England, unfortunately, but...
she's going to play for what, Wales? Or where?
No, she's English, but her surname's not England.
Not in England. Oh, she can change it, can't she?
Well, that's up to the parents. But so then I got scouted to play for Sheffield United Academy, and from then played for their local grassroots team and academy before playing for South Yorkshire, getting scouted for Doncaster Bells, played for Doncaster Bells, got scouted for Chelsea.
I did note Doncaster Bells on my notes, actually.
It's fine.
I did actually look at that.
I spent 5 years playing at the club there. I was 16 years old when the first WSL league started, so I was the youngest player to play in the league. And then, after that, obviously, scouted for Chelsea, spent a season on loan at Liverpool, and then after that, I've remained at Chelsea until I've recently just moved to Tottenham Hotspur.
Where you're captain?
I am, yes.
How does that feel? I saw the speech on Instagram. I love that. You were talking to the team, and you were on crutches at the time because you've just had surgery, right? Yeah,
so I've just had hip surgery for a labrum tear that I had in my hip, which wasn't fun. But unfortunately...
That just sounds painful. Whenever you hear labrum tear, it just never sounds good.
Yeah, so I actually had a tear in the cartilage at the back as well. So not only did I have surgery to repair the first tear, I had a PRP injection. For anyone that doesn't know what that is, it's where they draw your blood, spin it in a machine and then inject it into the injured area, and it helps the repair go quicker. So all at the same time of surgery, I had the PRP injection directly into the cartilage in the back of my hip.
Does that do anything else for people? Could I improve in any areas?
No, not really. You're more so, if you went to a high climate, that's classed as blood doping, so that's illegal.
Oh, is it really?
Yeah, that's a completely other topic.
A cyclist was doing quite a lot. I'm not going to say his name just in case I end up getting sued or something like that.
But that's obviously an area where we obviously get drugs tested a lot, so procedures are done not in a good way. So my surgery went well anyway, and was on crutches for 4 weeks, got rid of them now. But when I got appointed captain, obviously as you've seen in the video, was stood on my crutches. It was just a bit awkward getting to and from, but it was a good moment.
But it was lovely just watching the team because they were all behind you and they were all eagerly listening to you and stuff. It wasn't like they're like, you captain, whatever. So actually,
I'll probably give them a few more weeks and they'll be sick of my voice. But for now, it's all nice.
But it's still to be captain of the women's, the very, very pinnacle of women's football, a team up there. It's funny. I was reading about something going back a second. They used to play the Women's Super League in the summer.
Yeah, so that was called a spring series.
Right.
And I remember playing that when I played, obviously, at Doncaster, and then when I moved to Chelsea, one of my first seasons at Chelsea was during the spring series, where we played in the summer. And funnily enough, we won the season on my birthday that year. spent the whole season playing a left wing back. Hated every minute of it. It's a position that I hate. There's a lot of running, but it was a great day because, we won the league and it was on my birthday.
So why did they shift it back to winter?
Just because it was becoming a more professional league and they wanted to coincide with the men.
Come out in the summer. I mean, I don't understand
It was
why football's played in the winter.
a very short league.
Oh yeah, of course.
Because
there
wasn't enough teams to warrant a full long season league.
Right.
Whereas now, obviously, we've got a lot more funding, a lot more backing from big
clubs where we're able to. The infrastructure's still got a long way to go, but getting there in terms of getting more teams in the league, and we've built up now. What is the Super League's been going for 10 years now?
Yeah.
Well, if not longer, actually. Maybe
it's 2011 that happened, didn't it? 2011 they changed.
When I was 16 and I'm 29 now, so 13 years, it's been up and running. And obviously the growth in women's football's grown huge. And there's a much more infrastructure in place. And now it's a fully pledged professional league. Whereas before it was more classed as semi-professional. And obviously, as everyone knows, the pay wasn't all there. And there's still ongoing.
Yours was a record transfer fee, wasn't it?
Yeah.
You broke the record, £250,000.
I mean, I'd say don't believe everything you read in the papers, but it was broke the record for an English transfer fee anyway.
Because I noticed you suddenly changed cars to a Ferrari like the next day.
Ferrari wouldn't be my first choice, but
what would be your first choice of car? If you had to go out there tomorrow, money is no object, you want to buy a car right now.
Do you know what? My dream car is a matte black G-Wagon.
Really?
I love them. I don't know what it is about them.
Do you know the electric one's coming out?
But I absolutely love the G-Wagon.
Have you seen the electric one?
I haven't.
Oh, wow. You have to... Hang on, I'm going to show it to you now. Like, you have to look at this. It's insane. Okay, look at that. Hang on, put that on full screen.
Oh, I just think they're dead smart. Do you know what? This and it's the car I always think of because my dad's always wanted it. That is a smart car.
This right here is the future of G-Wagon.
Bugatti Veyron. My dad's always wanted.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and I did a trip recently to Monaco and I got to see one in a shop and I did think it was pretty nifty, but...
Yeah, for €1 million, it's like quite a bit for a car. Anyway, what do you think?
That's a pretty nifty... I wouldn't mind one of them, I'll tell you that, but yeah.
This is the world's only concept EQG, and I got Tuesday helping me out.
I might have to get myself one of those one day.
Oh, don't rub it in. At least let me sit in it then.
Yeah.
If you get one, just let me sit in it.
Sell a kidney or two. No, the one I really like, I've always loved, is the Alfa Romeo Spider, like from the 80s. It was such a beautiful car, but it's just an utter rust bucket. But it's so underpowered that you can put the foot through the floor and you're never going to get it out of shape. Like, so you can put it to its absolute limits and you're never going to injure yourself.
Okay.
Because like top speed is 80 miles per hour or something like that. Ridiculous. It's really not a fast car. And as I get older, I think slower and cars like that are probably going to be...
Probably be safe for everyone.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't want to start taking people out. It's funny, you know, we said a second ago about doping, and it's a sensitive subject, but it's interesting that I noticed when I offered you a drink when you got here, and it's such an athlete's unconscious thing to do. I got a drink. And I've noticed it with tennis players as well. Unless they're in someone's house or somewhere they're really safe, they won't take a drink of something or eat something because you get tested to death, don't you?
Yeah, so funny story actually is 2 days after my hip surgery, I was at home and anti-doping rocked up at my house at 9 p.m. in the evening. I thought someone was burgling us because the dogs were going crazy. Yeah. As you know, obviously I've got 2 dogs and I was in the shower and didn't know what was going on and I just literally hopped round thinking someone was burgling the house with the dogs going off in my crutches and anti-doping rocked up. So for me that was kind of... When
you were full of codeine from the painkillers you
morphine as well. I'd been put to sleep for major surgery. So for me it was kind of... It's showing how much our game's growing in women's sport, but also how much... I get tested all the... They must think that there's something wrong with me because I can honestly say I've been tested more times than I can probably count because I think I'm just one of those unlucky peoples where my number's either in the middle where it's random and my number always seems to come up. But testing's never fun, but it's kind of part of the job and you just have to do it. And for me, it was kind of like... Of all the times to come, you come at 9 p.m. But in professional sport, you have to give your whereabouts. You have to make sure you give them your home address and what times you're likely to be there. And
So what about if you go on holiday? They need to know where you're at.
most of the time they have to know your whereabouts, yeah. And I've only ever been drugs tested in tournament or at games or at the training ground.
Right.
It's only recently they've now started to come to our houses, which is what they do in the men's game and other sporting fields as well.
I remember a pro tennis player, she won the US Open, Sam Stosur, and she once remarked on what it was like, and they literally would turn up at her door at ridiculous hours.
They can show up at any time of the morning
or the night. And what I found so nasty about that was she had naturally broad shoulders, but she worked ridiculously hard in the gym because she wanted to have a serve that kicked off the court.
Okay.
And to do that, you need wide shoulders, strong back, and thick legs.
Okay.
So they just assumed she was doping. It's like, what?
Well, that's just...
Like she
I
worked
think,
so hard to get there, and their reward for that is, oh, we'll just come and test you every 5 minutes.
yeah, there's a catch-22 in the sense of, obviously, they want to make sure the sport is safe and that there's no one cheating and things like that. So I as angry as I can be when they rock up, because half the time I'm on first name basis with the doping lady now. She's seen me that many times, and there's an element of, oh God, you're here again, but at the same time they're just doing their job.
And you'd rather play on a level playing field as well, I guess.
Yeah, 100%.
So you're kind of like, you know what, I'm fine with this because I want to play.
And I'd rather know that the sport is safe and that it's protected and that everyone involved in it is adhering to the rules and regulations that is set.
Yeah.
But for me, like I say, it's easy to be angry at them, but at the end of the day, they're just doing their job. So I think it's important that you don't... I mean, I could have really flipped my lid at the fact she's rocked up at 9 o'clock. Yeah. I was on crutches. I couldn't do the test in the way that you would normally have to, because for females, we have to hover so that they can see.
Right.
I had hip surgery, so it wasn't possible. So you kind of have to adapt to situations.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, for me, it was more, it took longer for me to write down all the amount of drugs that were in my system from my surgery. So I was panicking more than anything that they're going to obviously find something. But at the same time, I've declared it all. They know I just had surgery. And luckily I've not heard anything back yet. So I think I'm in the clear.
Yeah, I can't imagine you wouldn't be. But there was a recent fight with Anthony Joshua and his opponent, Dylan White, I believe.
Yeah.
Got caught for doping. Yeah. And so they had to put on an emergency fight. I can't remember who it was with. Some guy that, a Finnish guy, I think he was. And Anthony Joshua was saying, look, this is, we need to be more transparent. I'm good that it's coming out. It's glad that we're looking at these sorts of issues more closely. But we have a problem if this is still happening. And I was talking to a friend and I said, well, just settle it. Let them dope. And then whoever's got the best dope wins. It's that simple. Why don't you just let people dope as much as they want and have boxing? You've a category of boxers like they do in weightlifting and stuff. You've got clean athletes and non-clean athletes. And he just said, yeah, we've already got that. I was like, what? He goes, yeah, WWE. I was like, oh yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, true.
But
also,
would you imagine those people trying to box?
It becomes unsafe.
Yeah.
For the personnel as well. And
I mean, in all seriousness, can you imagine those guys?
Have spent longer doping than another and are extremely, there's a weight-in category for a reason, so that there's somewhat similar types of ability going into the ring. You don't want to be throwing in people
9'6" with
I'm fully
jaws that grow like that.
Yeah, fully against it.
But yeah, it's always going to, and the more money there is in sport, it's always going to be people trying to get that tiny little edge.
100%, and the pressures as well. It's not just the money aspect. There's the pressures of wanting to be the best and wanting to achieve, and you're always wanting to get those small gains. And unfortunately, some people do the cheating way out of trying to get it through substances or particular ways, rather than trying to push for it, because that might be that they don't think that their body naturally can withstand it. Or there's an abundance of reasons, and we could be here all day talking about it. But for me, I think it's annoying, but it's a safe way to keep the players protected within the sport.
From the back to normality then, and away from the harsh stuff like doping and the real way of actually getting from a kid up in the north who ends up at the World Cup in Australia. I mean, you would have had these dreams, playing for the Doncaster Bells, and you see it on TV and watching it, and you think, oh, I'd like to be there someday and stuff like. What did you have to give up to get to there? And I don't just mean to there, but let's say the first step, which was, let's say, getting to play for Sheffield. Let's say going from there to playing for Chelsea, to playing for Spurs, to captaining Spurs. There's so many little steps along the way. It's not one thing you do, right? But What did you give up in those years, like 11 to 16, to be single-minded about that goal?
Do you know what? It's funny because looking back, you think I gave up so much, but everything I've given up, I would give up again in a heartbeat to get up to where I've gotten.
Yeah.
In terms of the amount of friends I've lost along the way, because I would stop going to social events because I was always training or I was always working to be able to pay for myself to go. I'll never forget, everyone that knows me in the football world knows that I paid my way through Doncaster Bells by working in a fish and chip shop, and I spent 3.5 years working night shifts in Barnsley Town Centre, Friday, Saturday, sometimes Sunday evenings, but mainly Friday, Saturday night shifts, 10 p.m. till 6 a.m. So whilst it was literally on the high street of the strip where the nightclubs were, and you'd be surprised the amount of people want fish and chips after a night out.
Oh, I remember those days too.
So yeah, it was pretty crazy, and I'm between the ages of 16 to 19, working as many hours as I can weeknight, on the weekends and the evenings, because through the week I was at college doing my A-levels.
Yeah.
In the evenings I was doing sports, like Monday, Wednesday, I was doing badminton. Tuesday, Thursday, I was doing athletics. Friday, this was when I was, and Saturday, Sunday was doing football. There was so many sports I was doing at this time where it got to a point where I had to pick, but I was working. I must have been playing football games, sometimes getting in from a night shift, 6 a.m, be up by 9, literally shower, quickly eat some breakfast, go to an away game, not get back till 8 p.m. at night, again shower, eat my tea, back out for the night shift, and I would be functioning off to 3-4 hours sleep, if that, get into games. And I think the sacrifice of the sleep, say the friends in social events, and just dedicating so much of my time to making sure I got to training or got to games, all through trying to pay my way. My family, I would say, were amazing at instilling us, you work for everything you got. I remember throughout the whole of high school, me and my twin sister had a paper round the whole 5 years, and it might seem little to people, but that instilled a work ethic where every morning we had to be at that paper shop, make sure everyone's rounds were done all before going to school. And for me, it was I think maybe I might have missed one day in 5 years where I was ill, and we never once asked my mum and dad to take the papers for us. We showed up every day, and it's funny because you kind of get a love for the people that you deliver to on snow days. We delivered to a lot of elderly, so they can't get out and get their milk, their bread, or certain things, or if someone's paper hadn't been, or magazine weren't delivered in the morning and it's got there later, after school I'd go back down to the paper shop, bike down, and then bike back up and make sure they received it. So I think going that little extra mile helped instill a good work ethic, but also good people skills as well. And I think that transferred throughout all of the jobs that I've had. There's a bit of a theme. It's all food related. I worked. My first job after the bakery was after the paper round, so it was in a bakery factory. Then we went to the chippy. I also worked some evenings to help out my friend at an Indian. Then I've worked at Marks and Spencer's, and I remember doing all the Christmas night shift orders. So I was in a freezer Christmas, the day before Christmas Eve, freezing to death, making sure everyone's Christmas orders were all prepared and stuff. And luckily from Marks and Spencer, I then went to Chelsea. So football's been my full-time job ever since. But the hard work of the early hours, the little sleep, studying, making sure everything was done, the sacrifices. I've gone in a really roundabout way of saying it, but there's so many sacrifices along the way. But as I say, I wouldn't change any of it if it meant that I knew I'd be going and playing in a World Cup final.
When you first got enough money from football to call it a job, what did that paycheck feel like?
Oh God, I don't actually know, but I think it was a big lifestyle change for me, because I would say the first time when that dropped is when I just moved from being up north with my family down south. So for the first time, I've moved away from home, away from my family, away from my friends, starting a new life in London. Everything was new. Everything was much more expensive down here. I think for me it was kind of...
learning a new language.
Yeah, obviously the way I speak compared to Southerners, learning etiquette and stuff. They're not all as polite as what we are up north, and I wholeheartedly would say that. But yeah, I think it's just
I mean,
I think
Londoners
I just
aren't
went a
quite
bit
New York,
crazy
but we are
because
rude.
I remember me and Frank Kirby. So we kind of befriended each other when I first went to Chelsea, and we had very similar interests and would always hang out a lot. So I think it was more so. I've never been a materialistic kind of girl. I would never go out and splash money on big things, or I was always probably money conscious because come from a working class, very proud working class family, never had a lot of money. So I think when I did have it, I don't want to just blow it.
Yeah.
And I think that's how I've always been, that I'm not chasing the materialistic lifestyle that I can't afford.
Right.
I work within my means. But I would say it got to a point where I enjoyed going out a bit more in maybe say the night time, like we'd go on a few nights out and I'd really realise how expensive it is on a night out in London compared to in good old Barnsley or Sheffield. But I think, the most thing I probably spent money on was having to cook and pay for things myself, like the rent and just generic things that I would never have to pay for. Obviously, I would pay board at home to my parents, but in the grand scheme of things, that was very little.
Quite discounted, compared to down here.
What it is like down here. So I think for me it was just, right, this is my money. I'm kind of like, I'm a big girl now. I'm earning a proper wage, like living by myself, having to do proper adulting things, and it was just all a bit of a whirlwind, really.
I did a paper round for years, and I think I missed a few more days than you. I hated it, absolutely hated it.
I loved it.
See, I used to deliver to all of these toffs in St John's Wood, and they were rude. And if you were late with their papers by 5 minutes, they'd call the shop and complain. It's like, what are you doing up at 6 o'clock on a Sunday? You've got nothing better to do. And it was dark, and some of the streets that I used to walk through in some of the houses were terrifying, like utterly terrifying mansion blocks. And there isn't a sound. And there was one I remember really clearly, still to this day, which was on the second floor. And you'd go in, and it was off Princess Wales Road. You go up the stairs, and first of all, the manager of the building was a tool. He was like, what is wrong with you? Why you cannot just deliver quicker? When I was you, I used to do very young, crash, 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 lot of papers. I'm like, mate, all right, relax. And there's this fat 13-year-old kid just trying to take these newspapers up the stairs. And then on Sundays, the bags are like 5 times bigger than normal. And it was always
usually when they put the magazines in the Sunday Times, isn't it?
God, and every time the second floor, this dog at some point would bark like nuts. Okay. And it was a little yappy dog, and sometimes it would grab the paper. And on the same story, on the second floor, right next to their door, was this statue, just a bronze of a head, which you'd open the lift and go out, and you'd always be looking at you. And then the dog would bark, and it would just, I hated it, absolutely hated it. But I did it because I wanted the money.
Yeah.
And I used to earn at the height of my earnings was £2.20 a week. And that was like, a lot of money when you consider.
I feel like mine was probably obviously different eras.
I'm about 20 plus years older than you.
I think we got paid was about £18 to £20 each per week.
Yeah, that's a lot more than I got. I got £2.20.
Yeah, like I say, I'm sure it was anything between £15 and £20 a week, and obviously between the ages of 11 to 16, you think,
that's a lot of money.
I'm in here. Like, is this enough for my pick and mix after school at the ice cream van, or just basic things that, like I say, I can't say I had some scary routes where there was bigger houses. Yeah. But again, if they were much further away, I would always use my bike and have the light on. So
I mean, I wonder if it's still there on Aquila Street in NW8. And it was the haunted house. We all knew it, right? And if you've ever watched It, the Stephen King film.
No, I don't like scary films.
Okay. Just pull up the trailer for it. And the house, that's it. That's the house. And
I feel like I know what you mean.
They wanted me to deliver the papers around the back. It wasn't even the front. And so you had to walk up around the back like that. And then you walked along this sort of metal railing and put the newspapers through the kitchen door. And you're looking down into the basements below you, and it's pitch black. No. And it was just like, why does anyone want papers here? There's obviously no one here. Yeah. This building died 400 years ago, and the only existence in here is some demonic spirit. And, the stories go through your head of what might be there. It paid away,
though, so it's okay.
Yeah, it's not okay. I'm still haunted by that memory, so I never want to go back there. I'm sure you took this one to death, but I want to show you your penalty, and I want you to talk me through this, because this, for me, was...
You don't need to show it. I've got it on replay here. Madness, really. I think it's probably if other than the final, the pinnacle of my career of stepping up in a moment like that at a World Cup. And I mean, the story, I've said it a million times, was when I got called on by the assistant that they told me I would be number 2 penalty taker. I honestly looked him dead in the eye and I was like, no, like it's fine, there's other penalty takers. He was like, no, you're number 2. And I was like, okay, like, yeah, whatever. And he was like, I'll come back to you. And I'm thinking, why on earth am I number 2 on the penalty? Like, there's loads. I mean, I back myself in a penalty, but I've never would say I'm the type of person that would put myself forward to do something, because I'm very much a confidence player and I have to feel it to do it. And I think, to be fair, since I moved to Tottenham, I was at a club at Chelsea where there was that many penalty takers, I didn't really need to do it. And the few odd times that I did, I'd missed a few and scored a couple, but I'd also missed a few. I guess the trust that you put in your confidence really to take them, I would say, is it can be hindered a little bit. And I think at Spurs I managed to get that back and build myself up into a position where I was like, do you know what, I can take this, it's fine, it's a penalty, whatever. It's 50-50, either it is or it isn't. And I kind of got rid of that worry factor more.
Hang on, but is it really 50-50? Because I mean, I went to Chelsea training ground and I had a foam touch tennis ball against a 16-year-old trainee kid goalkeeper, and I couldn't score, right? I couldn't get it past him. So, I mean, if it's a good goalie...
but you're not a professional footballer or doing...
I know, but I am immensely talented, let's be honest. But seriously, like, there's the odds of you missing the goal completely. There's also the goalie saving it. I mean,
but that comes down to the 50-50 of the keeper's either going to save it or it's not, or you're either going to hit the ball on target and score.
So if you hit 100 shots from that distance, you'd hit 100, with no goalie, 100 would go in.
Not necessarily, it depends. Like I say, it's 50, I'll either hit it wrong, I'll hit it with the wrong part of my boot, at the wrong pace, at the wrong height,
right,
and it can miss, or it can go in.
Right.
But for me, it was kind of, in that moment, I was more shocked at the fact that I'd been asked to step up at such a momentous occasion.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing him say to another player that, oh, you're number 6, and this particular player is a really good penalty taker. So in my head, I'm thinking, oh, I could just switch with her. Anyway, he comes back to me and he was like, look, Beth, are you still happy to do number 2? I just remember looking to one of my closest mates and was like, do you know what? Yeah, I am going to do it. Everything was great. We're stood there, arm in arm, halfway line, watching all this happen. Our first penalty, she misses. And honestly, when I say, like, I felt sick to my stomach, because I'm like, why am I number 2? Why did I say yes to this? Because the pressure's all on me now. But then obviously
you can't come back from 2-0 down.
Nigeria went, they missed, then it was like, okay, reset, time to start again. And I think from a kid, you always imagine what you're going to be like in these moments of that long walk. Can feel like a lifetime. You can hear all the noise from the crowd. You probably think of the abuse you're going to get shouted at, all these things. And honestly, I can genuinely say it was the most silent walk of my life. And all I remember was focusing on the ball, getting it from Mary, the keeper, because I remember saying, hand me the ball. I don't want their keeper to try and play mind games.
And chuck it at you or put it slightly to the left.
So I was like, Mary, collect the ball for me, which apparently was protocol anyway. She got the ball to me, and all I remember was focusing on the ball, listening for the referee's whistle, looked at her, whatever, and just thinking, take your time, because I think one of the best advice I got given about a penalty is don't rush it, just because the more you rush it, the more likely you are to miss it, and just take a breath. And I just remember hitting it, the noise volume went from like 0 to 100 in the stadium, and there's just a relief, and I just remember turning around, like fist bump in the air. I always kiss my wrist when I score. And then the walk back over to Jess, so she's one of my closest friends, and just the relief in her face. And she doesn't show much emotion, which made it all more sweet, because you could see the emotion and relief on her face that I didn't mess it up. And I think for both of us, we were like, I really did just do that. And it set the team in a good stead, because again, Nigeria missed their second penalty as well. So it calmed our nerves, and say Alex, Rachel and Chloe just put the ball away and got us through, and it was a night I'll never forget. I can't believe you went
chip up the centre though. Like,
bang down the middle.
Yeah, just...
Yeah,
I think you didn't hit that full send. You could have hit that a lot harder.
I could have hit it harder, but I think if I would have, I'd have skied it, and that would have been embarrassing. But it was more like, it was just pure relief that it went in. I was able to help the team and do the job that I was asked of, and we got luckily got through the next round.
We were kicking a football around in Spain, and I'm not exactly gifted when it comes to my feet. And Benny Mason actually has asked a question from Instagram. Me with my hands against you with your feet, touch tennis, who's winning? I'm not allowed a racket, I can only use my hand.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. When my hip's better, guess we'd have to give the people what they want to see. But
I'll give you that match. Yeah.
Yeah.
If it's me feet against you feet, there's no point. You're just going to absolutely destroy me. Because I remember when we played over the net with you and a few of your ex-teammates, it was embarrassing.
Yeah.
There was 3 on my side, 2 on theirs, and they just humiliated us by passing the ball to me.
Yeah. I don't know. It depends how much swerve you can get on it, how quickly I can move my feet. Because I guess you can move your feet quick and then use your arms to go. But I guess if you've got to move your feet and lift your foot to get the right angle, I reckon it'd be a good game. But
I think we should
a
try
small
that.
surface area to kick at. But the same would be for your hand. But I always would back myself. I'd be stupid not to.
Yeah, as you did when you went and took up that penalty. I had Marcus Willis and me. We were kicking a ball around, his son and everything. We were like, right, kick through the legs. And I was like, there's no way I'm missing. So he stands there with his legs apart and he's passed the ball through his legs from about 10, 11 metres. And it was an absolute fluke. I was like, I never miss, mate. Just turned my back and walked away. He goes, all right, 1 at the nuts. And I was like, really? He said, I said, what distance? He goes, we'll go 20 paces. So I stood there, arms behind my back. And Marcus Willis, he got to second round of Wimbledon and played Federer. I mean, he's a very good athlete.
Yeah.
And he absolutely, perfect curl, chips the ball, goes round me like that, just misses me. Like such a lovely swerving ball. I walked up from my shot.
Absolutely blasted it at him, didn't you?
Cleared the tennis net behind him and it went over 3 courts. That's how hard I kicked it. And he was like, are you trying to kill me? I'm like, yeah. Don't play that game with me.
I'm glad that didn't hit him.
Yeah. I mean, he put his hands behind his back and he was just like, oh my God, I blasted this so hard. And it was the sweetest connection I've ever made with a ball in my life.
You just got to be able to control the accuracy.
Yeah, there's no control there.
Yeah.
But I was just thinking, I'm not going to just tap it at him. I want to put this guy down.
Yeah.
But yeah, sadly I missed. Or maybe sadly not. I'd probably be doing 25 to life right now if that had made contact. But I've got a couple more questions for you, and I've got to round this up, and I've got to let you get back on with your life because you've kindly come here to do this, and I really appreciate it. Talking of your time in M&S, you will know how good their eclairs are.
Yeah, big M&S fan.
I'd like to know whether or not you think you could beat me at an eat-off.
Okay.
Now, we know that athletes, your diet's very strict. You've got to eat the right stuff. You've got to train, and I know you're training really hard at the moment to get your fitness back.
Yeah.
But this is also another kind of training because I am a world champion at eclair eating. I've never lost to anyone.
How many people have done it?
Hundreds. And they've all lost. Every time.
Do you go in one?
Yeah. Well, you can do it as fast as you... However you could do it, you've got to get it down you first.
But there's a lot of cream there, so you're saying there's no spillage? Are you eating it clean? Because if there's spillage, it don't count. If it's on your top, you've got to clean it.
Well, that's a new rule. I'd never really thought about that. Because normally it's just like carnage.
People like rules, and we like, if you leave a grey area, we'll find a way to use it.
Okay, so no spillage then?
No,
you're not allowed any spillage?
No spillage, the whole thing has to go in.
Right.
From cream to chocolate to pastry. Oh, I should have brought a bubble.
3, 2, 1.
Oh my God. Okay.
No drinking.
Fair. Fair. I'll give you that. I don't know, I didn't choke then. I'm just going to sit and enjoy this then.
Ladies and gentlemen.
That's my round of applause, that's impressive.
That's another win for the greatest eclair eater of all time. Thank you so much for tuning in. If you stayed till the end, I hope you thought it was worth it to watch me absolutely destroying that eclair. and destroying our guest, Beth England. Thank you so much for coming in.
I'll be back anytime. This is lovely.